The trade station moved like a living thing. Its halls breathed with air vents, lights hummed softly above, and footsteps echoed through long corridors made of metal and glass. Ships arrived and left at all hours, bringing voices from many worlds. Yet in the lower service halls, far from the busy docks and markets, silence ruled. This was where Lena worked. She moved through the narrow halls with a small cleaning unit rolling behind her. The floor panels here were older, scratched and dull from years of use. Pipes ran along the walls, some warm, some cold. The air smelled faintly of oil and recycled water. Few beings came down here unless they had to. Lena kept her eyes low as she worked. She cleaned spills, wiped panels, and carried tools from one storage room to another. Her steps were careful, quiet. She had learned long ago not to draw attention. Attention often meant trouble. She was not weak. Her body was built for work, steady and strong enough for long hours. But she was small compared to many species on the station, and her kind held no rank or title. Over time she had learned where she stood in the order of things. Most beings passed her without seeing her at all. Some brushed past her shoulder without apology. Others spoke over her head as if she were part of the wall. When mistakes happened nearby, eyes often turned toward her first, even if she had done nothing wrong. At first, Lena had tried to speak up. She had explained herself. She had worked harder. None of it changed much. So she learned a better way to survive. She became quiet. She focused on doing her tasks perfectly. If the floor shined, no one complained. If tools were in the right place, no one asked questions. She stayed invisible, she stayed safe. Over many cycles, that way of thinking settled deep inside her. She began to believe it. She believed she had no value beyond what her hands could do. She believed her thoughts did not matter. She believed that if she disappeared, the station would continue without pause. That belief followed her everywhere. One cycle, the station announced the arrival of a human maintenance team. Humans were not rare on the station, but they did not come often to the lower service levels. They usually worked near power systems, engines, and outer hull areas. Lena heard about them through passing talk. Human techs, someone said. Here for system checks. She did not think much of it. Later that same cycle, she was cleaning a junction hall near an old power relay. The lights there flickered slightly, a known issue that had never been fully fixed. Lena wiped the control panel carefully, making sure not to disturb any wiring. She heard footsteps. Heavy boots. Steady pace. She stepped aside at once, pressing close to the wall to make room. Most beings preferred service workers to move without being asked. But the footsteps slowed. They did a rough job on this panel, a voice said. Lena froze. The voice was calm, low, and unfamiliar. It did not sound angry or rushed. She glanced up before she could stop herself. A human stood a few steps away holding a small tool case. He was taller than her, but not towering. His hair was short and dark, his clothes marked with signs of repair work. His face looked tired but not cold. This was Jack Miller. Jack had been sent to check the relay after reports of unstable power flow. He had not expected to find anyone working there already. He noticed Lena's careful movements before he noticed anything else. The way she wiped each edge. The way she checked corners twice. The way she handled tools as if they were fragile, even when they were not. Jack looked at the panel, then at the floor, then back at Lena. You clean this area often? He asked. Lena hesitated. Being spoken to directly always caught her off guard. Yes, she said quietly. Jack nodded. It shows. She did not understand what he meant. Jack knelt beside the relay, setting down his tools. He worked for a few minutes in silence, adjusting a loose connector. Lena waited, unsure if she should leave or stay. Most would have told her to move. Jack did not. When he finished, he stood and tested the panel. The lights steadied, their flicker fading. He smiled slightly. That should hold, he said, more to himself than to her. Then he looked at Lena again. Thanks for keeping this place clean, he said. Makes it easier to spot problems. The words hit her harder than she expected. Thanks? No one had thanked her for that before. Lena nodded once, unsure how to respond. Jack picked up his case and started to walk away. Then he paused. You did good work, he added. And then he left. Lena stood there for a long moment, staring at the now steady lights. Her hands felt strange, as if they did not belong to her. She told herself it meant nothing. Humans were known for casual words. He had probably spoken without thinking. He would forget her by the next corridor. Still, as she returned to her cleaning, something felt different. The hall seemed quieter than before, not because of sound, but because of the space left behind by that brief exchange. Over the next few cycles, Lena saw Jack again. Not often but enough to notice. Sometimes he passed through while she worked. Sometimes he stopped to check a panel nearby. Each time he greeted her with a nod or a simple word. Morning. Good work here. Once, when a cart was stuck on a floor seam, he helped lift it free without a word. None of it was dramatic. None of it drew attention. But it was consistent. Jack spoke to her as if she were part of the station, not part of the background. Lena did not know what to do with that. She found herself standing a little straighter when she worked. She checked her tasks with the same care as before, but now there was something else mixed in. Awareness. She began to notice how others spoke to Jack. Some treated him with respect. Some challenged him. Jack responded the same way to all of them, calm, focused, fair. He did not raise his voice. He did not ignore those below him. He listened. Lena watched from a distance, learning without meaning to. One cycle, as she finished storing tools near a junction bay, Jack appeared again. He glanced at her tool list and nodded. You keep this place running, he said simply. Lena felt heat rise in her chest. I just clean, she replied. Jack shook his head slightly. Nothing just about it. Before she could answer, an alert sounded elsewhere and Jack turned to go. He paused once more. See you around, Lena, he said. She blinked. He knew her name. As he walked away, Lena stood still, her mind racing. He had spoken her name without checking a tag, without asking. He had remembered. For years she had believed she had no worth. That belief had been built slowly, piece, by silence and neglect. Jack had not tried to break it. He had simply ignored it. And that, more than anything else, unsettled her. As Lena returned to her work, the station felt the same as always. Ships docked. Lights glowed. Machines hummed. But inside her, something small had shifted. Not hope. Not yet. But doubt. And for the first time, she wondered if the story she told herself about her worth might not be the only one. Lena avoided speaking the way some beings avoided pain. It was not sudden. It was learned. Each quiet step, each lowered gaze, each short answer was shaped by years of being unseen. Words to her were risky things. They could be taken, twisted, ignored, or used against her. Silence felt safer. So she chose it. When others passed her in the halls, she moved aside. When they spoke, she listened without replying unless required. When questions were asked, she answered only what was needed. Nothing more. She expected nothing from anyone. That belief had protected her for a long time. When Jack greeted her again a few cycles after their first meeting, she was wiping dust from a panel near a service lift. He said, "Morning, Lena," in the same calm tone he used with everyone. She nodded once and kept working. "Thanks for clearing the path here," Jack added. "Made the repair easier." She did not answer. Inside, she told herself the same thing she always did. It means nothing. He is just being polite. Humans speak easily. Their words are light. They do not last. Praise in Lena's life had always faded fast. A supervisor once thanked her for speed, then blamed her the next cycle for a delay she did not cause. A worker once smiled and called her helpful, then forgot her name the same day. Kind words were brief visitors. They never stayed. So when Jack thanked her again later that cycle, she assumed it was empty. Jack, however, noticed her silence. Not as rudeness. Not as coldness. As distance. He had seen it before. Some humans carried the same habits. People who learned that speaking did not change outcomes. People who learned that being noticed often hurt more than being ignored. Jack did not push her to talk. He did not ask personal questions. He did not demand responses. He simply continued. When Lena moved a crate out of a walkway before anyone asked, Jack said, "That helped." When she pointed out a loose cable quietly, Jack said, "Good eye." When she finished her tasks early and waited near a wall, Jack said, "Thanks for sticking around." Each time Lena reacted the same way. A nod. A short answer. No expression. But inside something stirred. She told herself not to listen. Not to care. Not to believe. Other workers paid little attention to these exchanges. To them, Lena was still part of the station's background. Jack was busy. Humans were strange. That was all. One cycle, a group of technicians struggled with a faulty access door. The panel refused to respond. Voices grew sharp. Frustration filled the hall. Lena watched from a distance. She had cleaned that door many times. She knew its sound. She knew how it hesitated before unlocking. "It sticks when the temperature shifts," she said quietly, almost without thinking. No one heard her. She stepped closer. "The sensor delays," she said a little louder. Still nothing. Jack looked up. What was that? Lena froze. She considered retreating. Silence pressed at her again, heavy and familiar. But Jack was looking directly at her, waiting. The sensor, she repeated. It delays after cooling. Jack nodded at once. That explains it. He adjusted the timing. The door opened smoothly. That saved time, he said. Thank you. Lena felt heat rise in her face. She turned away quickly, pretending to check her cart. Inside her mind, the same thought repeated. It won't last. Don't trust it. Later that cycle, Jack passed her again near the storage bay. You know this section well, he said. She shrugged. I clean it. Jack shook his head slightly. You observe it. That felt different. Lena did not answer. She could not. She wondered why he kept doing this. Why he bothered. Why he spoke as if her actions mattered. She watched how Jack treated others. He was calm with everyone. Fair. Direct. He listened even when others spoke poorly or angrily. He corrected mistakes without blame. He did not raise his voice. But there was something else too. He did not treat Lena like she was fragile. He did not overpraise. He did not soften his words. He spoke to her the same way he spoke to senior staff. That confused her more than kindness ever had. One cycle, Lena misread a supply order and brought the wrong part. She realized the mistake halfway down the hall. Her chest tightened. Mistakes meant attention. Attention meant trouble. She turned back quickly, correcting it before anyone noticed. Jack noticed. You caught it, he said when she returned with the right item. I made an error, she said quietly. Yes, Jack agreed. And you fixed it. She looked at him, unsure. That still matters. He nodded. Of course it does. No one had ever said that to her. As days passed, Lena found herself listening more closely to Jack's words. Not because she trusted them, but because they were consistent. He did not speak kindly one day and harshly the next. He did not forget her presence. He did not change when others watched. That consistency unsettled her. Praise that lasted was unfamiliar. One cycle, a supervisor snapped at Lena for being in the way during a rush. She stepped aside at once, apology ready on her tongue. Before she could speak, Jack said calmly, She's clear. We're fine. The supervisor moved on. Jack turned to Lena. You didn't do anything wrong. Lena swallowed. It's easier if I move. Jack paused. Easier for who? She did not answer. That question stayed with her long after he walked away. That night, Lena lay awake in her small rest space, staring at the ceiling. She replayed moments from the cycle. Jack's voice. His calm. His refusal to dismiss her. She tried to push the thoughts away. She reminded herself of every time kindness had faded. Every time she had believed only to be proven wrong. Still doubt crept in. Not doubt about Jack. Doubt about her belief. The next cycle, something small but important happened. A worker approached Lena directly. Do you know where the spare connectors are? He asked. She hesitated. Then nodded. Yes. He waited. She pointed the way and added, The left bin is damaged. Use the right. He followed her advice. Thanks, he said and walked away. Lena stood still. That had never happened before. Jack saw her later and said nothing. He only gave a small nod as if acknowledging something unspoken. Lena began to understand something she had never considered. Jack was not trying to change her. He was treating her as if she already mattered. That idea frightened her more than being ignored ever had. Because if it was true, then the belief she had carried for so long was wrong. And if it was wrong, then her world was larger than she had allowed herself to see. She was not ready to accept that yet. But for the first time she no longer rejected it outright. Jack's kindness did not demand anything from her. It did not ask her to be brave or confident or loud. It only asked her to exist. And that, slowly, carefully, began to change how Lena saw herself, even as she continued to expect nothing at all. After the system error, Lena waited quietly, expecting blame and harsh words. She stood near the wall, hands still, eyes lowered, ready for correction. The panel she cleaned earlier had failed during a power shift. A warning light had flashed too late, and systems paused briefly. No damage occurred, but delays always brought anger on stations. Lena remembered many times when mistakes were placed on her shoulders. Even when she was not at fault, blame found her easily. So she waited, heart tight, breath shallow, prepared to disappear again. Jack arrived without hurry, tools in hand, eyes calm and focused. He checked the panel, read the logs and reviewed the timing. He did not raise his voice or call others to watch. He did not ask why she was there or accuse her presence. He simply worked, thinking, listening to the station's quiet sounds. When he finished, he turned toward Lena and spoke gently. "The error was caught early," he said, voice steady and clear. Lena nodded, unsure what response was expected from her. She waited for the rest, the part that always came. Instead, Jack said, "Your earlier cleaning helped reveal the fault." Lena looked up slowly, confused by his words. "I only cleaned," she replied softly, unsure and uncertain. Jack shook his head slightly, not in disagreement but correction. "You noticed dust near the seal," he said calmly. "That told me where to look when the alert appeared." Lena felt something shift, small but deep inside her chest. No one had linked her actions to prevention before. Jack continued speaking, not loudly, not dramatically. "Effort matters," he said. "Even when results seem small." She listened, unable to look away now. He explained how systems failed in layers, not single moments. How small care often prevented large damage later. How attention saved time, energy, and sometimes lives. Lena had never been included in such explanations before. Others spoke over her, around her, or not at all. Jack spoke to her, not past her. She waited again for the lesson to end with dismissal. It did not. Jack said, "You did your work honestly. That has value." The word value echoed in her mind, sharp and strange. She had not heard it used for her before. Lena's voice was quiet. "I am only support staff." Jack frowned slightly, not in anger but concern. "Worth is not position," he said. "It is care and honesty." Lena felt warmth rise behind her eyes, unexpected and unwanted. She turned her face slightly, hiding the reaction. Jack did not comment. He gave her space without retreating. "That's why the station still runs," he added calmly. His words stayed simple but they carried weight. Not praise meant to lift briefly then fade. Not comfort meant to soften disappointment. But truth offered without demand. Jack packed his tools and prepared to leave. Before walking away he added one last sentence. "You did well today." Then he left, footsteps fading into the corridor. Lena remained where she stood long after. The station sounds returned to normal around her. Lights hummed. Systems moved. Life continued. But something inside her did not return to its old place. She replayed his words again and again. Worth is not position. Worth is care and honesty. She thought of all the cycles she worked quietly. All the floors cleaned. All the warnings noticed and never spoken. She had believed worth was granted by others. Titles, strength, rank, attention. Things she never had. Jack had offered a different measure. One she already carried. That realization frightened her. Because it meant her belief about herself might be wrong. Lena returned to her task slowly that cycle. She moved with the same care as always. But her posture changed slightly, almost unnoticed. When she wiped panels, she checked seals again. When she passed workers, she did not shrink as much. Her silence remained, but it felt less heavy. Later, another alert sounded in a distant wing. Lena paused, listening closely to the tone. She recognized it as minor but unusual. She hesitated only a moment. Then she reported it to maintenance. Jack was not there this time. Another technician handled the issue. Still, Lena spoke clearly. The problem was addressed quickly. No one thanked her. No one blamed her. And for the first time that felt acceptable. Because Jack's words were still with her. They did not require repeat or approval. They existed inside her now. That night in her rest space, Lena sat quietly. She did not replay old failures. She replayed one calm conversation instead. A human had looked at her and seen worth. Not because she asked for it. Not because she demanded it. But because she had always shown care. Lena did not suddenly believe she mattered. Beliefs like that did not change quickly. But a crack had formed in the old thought. And light, slowly, was finding its way through. Lena did not change all at once. There was no sudden moment where she became brave or loud. The change came slowly, like light rising before morning. Each cycle, she carried Jack's words with her while she worked. She did not repeat them aloud. She let them sit quietly inside her thoughts. At first, the change showed in small ways. She walked a little straighter through the service halls. Her steps were still careful but no longer rushed. She no longer tried to disappear into walls or shadows. She still worked silently, but her silence felt chosen, not forced. When she cleaned panels, she took her time. She checked corners others missed. She noticed patterns in dust and wear. She learned which sounds meant trouble and which were normal. Before, she noticed these things but kept them to herself. Now, she began to speak when something felt wrong. The first time she reported a problem, her voice shook. She expected dismissal or blame. Instead, a supervisor listened and nodded. The issue was fixed before it became serious. Nothing dramatic happened afterward. No praise. No anger. Just quiet correction. That alone felt like progress. Lena began to understand something important. Worth did not need to be announced. It showed itself through action and care. Jack had not changed how she worked. He had changed how she saw her work. Other workers slowly noticed her presence. Not because she demanded attention. Not because she stood in front of them. But because problems around her seemed to lessen. Tasks flowed more smoothly in areas she maintained. Systems failed less often. Mess was cleaned before it spread. Some began greeting her. Simple greetings. A nod. A quiet thanks. These small signs would have once overwhelmed her. Now she accepted them calmly. She did not cling to them or doubt them. They were simply part of the day. Lena still remembered years of being unseen. Those memories did not vanish. But they no longer controlled her steps. One cycle, a new worker joined the station crew. The worker made mistakes and moved with nervous care. Others ignored her or spoke sharply. Lena noticed the familiar signs of fear and doubt. Without thinking too long, Lena offered help. She explained procedures slowly. She showed where tools were stored. She did not rush or judge. The new worker looked at her with surprise. "Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly. Lena paused. The answer came simply. "Because it matters," she said. As she spoke, she realized she believed it. Jack returned to the station weeks later for another job. When he saw Lena, he noticed the change at once. Not in her uniform. Not in her role. But in how she carried herself. He greeted her the same way as before. No added praise. No special words. Just respect. That felt right to Lena. They spoke briefly about work. Jack listened as she explained a system issue clearly and calmly. He nodded and thanked her for the information. Afterward, as he walked away, Lena did not feel the old fear. She did not wonder if his words would fade. She did not wait for approval. His words had already done their work. Over time, others trusted Lena's judgment. They asked her opinion on repairs. They waited for her checks before moving equipment. She became part of the station's rhythm. Still quiet. Still careful. But no longer invisible. Lena learned that confidence did not need noise. It lived in steady hands and honest effort. It lived in showing up every cycle and doing the work well. One quiet shift, Lena stood alone in a long service hall. Lights reflected softly off clean metal floors. She paused, listening to the station breathe around her. For the first time, she did not feel small in that space. She felt present. She understood then that her value had always existed. It had not arrived with Jack. He had only pointed to it. Lena returned to her tasks with calm steps. She did not seek praise. She did not fear silence. She worked with purpose, knowing she mattered. And that belief stayed with her. Jack left the station on a quiet cycle, just like he had arrived. There were no announcements about his departure. No crowd gathered to watch his ship leave. He finished his work, packed his tools, and said goodbye to a few co-workers. To him, it was only another job completed. Lena watched from a distance as the human ship moved away from the docking ring. She did not wave. She did not call out his name. She simply stood still and let the moment pass. Jack never knew how much his words had stayed with her. He never knew that a few simple sentences had shifted the way she saw herself. He believed kindness was normal. He believed respect cost nothing. Then he moved on. Life on the station continued as it always had. Machines hummed. Corridors filled and emptied. Shifts changed. Trade ships arrived and departed. But Lena was not the same. She returned to her work with a steady pace. She cleaned, repaired, and checked systems with calm focus. Her movements were sure, not rushed. Her thoughts were clear, not clouded by doubt. When problems appeared, she reported them without fear. When others asked questions, she answered without shrinking. She did not raise her voice. She did not demand attention. She simply existed with confidence. Some noticed. Some did not. That no longer mattered. There were still days when old thoughts returned. Moments when silence felt heavy. Times when she remembered years of being unseen. Those memories did not disappear. They softened instead. When doubt whispered, Lena answered it calmly. She reminded herself of the work she had done. Of the systems that ran safely because she had cared. Of the people who trusted her hands and judgment. She did not need praise to believe those things. One cycle, a supervisor offered her a new task. It came with more responsibility. More trust. Lena accepted without surprise. She trained others patiently. She spoke clearly. She listened. She corrected mistakes without anger. Workers began to seek her advice. They waited for her checks before closing panels. They thanked her for steady guidance. Lena accepted their words without fear of losing them. She did not cling. She did not doubt. Her confidence was quiet but firm. At times she remembered Jack. Not with longing. Not with sadness. But with understanding. He had never tried to change her. He had simply seen her. That had been enough. Lena realized that true strength was not loud. It did not demand space. It did not push others aside. It stood calmly and allowed others to stand too. One evening, Lena finished a long shift and paused in a service hall. Lights reflected softly on clean metal floors. The station moved around her, alive and steady. She took a slow breath. Once she would have felt small here. Now she felt grounded. She understood something fully at last. Her worth was not given by others. It was not taken away by silence. It lived in her care, her honesty, and her effort. Jack had helped her see that truth. But it belonged to her now. Lena returned to her duties without hesitation. She worked with quiet pride. She lived with calm belief. From that day on, Lena carried a truth that could not be shaken. She mattered.